guys.
Good to go.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
It's greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everybody and welcome. We will call to order this meeting of the Lawrence County Board of Elections. Today is Tuesday, February 13, 2024. A couple of housekeeping items. I will note that this meeting was appropriately advertised in relation to the Sunshine Law. I believe the legal ad was in last Friday or Saturday. Friday, thank you. And we would also ask if you have any type of a cell phone or electronic recording device, you just put it on silent or vibrate. We'd appreciate if you would do that. We'll note that the meeting is being live streamed and also recorded. And just also note that this is the new Board of Elections. We've gone through some changes. Last year's Board of Elections consisted of Commissioner Brian Burek, and then Frank McCary and Attorney Jack Seltzer. The way the law is written, normally the Board of Elections consists of the 3 elected commissioners, unless they are on the ballot. And last year, both myself and then Commissioner Spielvogel were both on the ballot. So as a result, we had to step off of the Board of Elections. President Judge has the authority to appoint the replacements, and he chose Mr. McCary and Attorney Seltzer. And because Commissioner Burek was not running, he was allowed to remain a member of the Board of Elections. Well, that was 2023. We're into 2024. We have a new Board of Commissioners, and at least as of right now, none of us are running for anything. I'm certainly not. Others run for cover once in a while, but so as a result, the 3 of us are the current Board of Elections. One thing we don't have on here, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and do it. We don't have the Pledge of Allegiance, but if you don't mind, if we could stand and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Let's ask for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sanada?
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Here.
Commissioner Vogler?
Here. So we do have a quorum. All 3 members of this board are currently present. Before I get to public comment, I do want to welcome both Commissioner Kennedy and Commissioner Sanada to the board. And of course, the gentleman to my left is Tim Germani, who is the director of our Voter Services Office, which oversees elections and voter registration. Before I open it up for public comment, let me see if my colleagues have any opening remarks they would wish to make. Mr. Kennedy, anything? No, good. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sanada? Not at this time. Okay, thank you both. Well, before we adjourn, we'll certainly open it back up again. And that is also true with public comment. Public comment is listed first, the next item on the agenda. Traditionally, we have public comment at the beginning and then before we adjourn. So there'll be 2 times for public comment. You're welcome to speak both times. You're welcome to speak one of the 2 times, or if you're just here to listen, that's equally fine. The 2 things we would ask, if you do have comments, we ask that they be related to election board matters. If it's a commissioner matter, we'll be reconvening at 10 o'clock and would be glad to hear your comments then. But if you're here for election board matters, you're certainly at the right place. The other thing we would ask, if you could try to keep your time to around 5 minutes for your comments, please. So with that, I'm going to open the floor and see if anybody in the audience has a public comment that they would like to make. If you do, could you please, for the record, just state your name, if anybody has anything right now. Yes, sir.
I guess you're looking right at me. My name is Leroy Paulding, and I am with Glenmore with the elections. And I understand that they're putting 2 more things in our precinct up there at 2-3. And my comments are that, are we going to have to take care of all those? And these are questions that have been put to me as a judge. Are we going to be responsible for the new things coming in? And I understand, according to the paper, that when they were up at the Lutheran church up at by Pizza Joe's, there was a lot of garbage, a lot of signs, and that's why they were kicked out, more or less. These are questions that I would like to, and my board was saying that, are we gonna get paid double, triple for these people, or what's going on?
Thank you, Mr. Poling, and those are all very important questions. Are you able to stay for the meeting? You're not in a hurry to leave? The reason I ask, we're gonna get to that, and unless you have to leave right away, if you're able to stay in a few moments here, we'll get to that, and Mr. Germaini will try to answer the questions.
I'll answer them, yeah.
Okay, we'll, if you give us a few minutes, and again, we appreciate your joining us, and those are all very good questions that we'll address here very shortly.
For sure.
Thank you, Mr. Poling. By the way, I like your shirt. That's my alma mater. Best 7 years of my life. Other public comments that anybody might have right now? Once again, we'll reopen it before we adjourn. To my colleagues on the board, the minutes of the November 6 and November 27 meetings of the Board of Elections are in your packet. Puts you in a somewhat of an interesting spot because you were not members of the board at that time. However, it takes two to adopt our minutes. And we can do one of a couple things. If you're comfortable with what's included in your packet, there's no problem with us voting on the minutes. If you would need more time, we can always adopt them at the next meeting. But I'll leave that open to the two of you as to how you want to proceed. I will say, as one of three, I'm comfortable, and I assume from where you sit, Tim, these are accurate.
Yeah, from what I've gone through, sir, yes.
But gentlemen, take the time to look them over. Either of you have any questions, we can address them. And if you don't have any questions, I could always entertain a motion to adopt both sets of minutes, but please take your time. One other thing, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, you pulled these minutes together, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so Christine typed up these minutes. And you were here for both of
I
those
was.
meetings. Okay, thank you. Are you ready to make a motion? Okay.
I'm good.
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept these minutes. Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any questions or comments regarding the minutes? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sinata,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Christine. Item 2 on our agenda is the election director's report. Mr. Germaini, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, first thing I want to talk about, or at least let the public know, I already put the proclamation in the newspaper, but we'll go over the offices to be elected in 2024. We got President of the United States Senator, Attorney General, Auditor General, State Treasurer, Representatives in Congress, which is the 16th. We have Senator and the General Assembly of 47th. That's for odd districts this time. And representatives in the General Assembly, which is the 8th and 9th. We also have delegates to the National Convention for both Republican and Democrats, and alternate delegates, which will only be for Republicans, not Democrats this year. Per party rules, I guess.
Let me ask you a question.
Sir?
The petition process is underway, but is it my understanding that all of those positions that you just named, that the petitions need to be filed in Harrisburg, not at this office? Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Every land, so there will be no petitions filed here for this primary?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll all go to Harrisburg.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Before you move on with your report, Dan or Chris, any questions on that issue? Thank you. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, so those offices will be on both the Democrat and Republican ballot. Once again, it's a primary, and those, Pennsylvania has a closed primary, and those will be the only parties available in this county. I have voter stats that I like to always go over with total vote counts throughout the county. This was ran yesterday. We have, as of yesterday, 55,701 registered voters. That's all parties. A breakdown, we have Republicans at 27,908, Democratic Party at 20,956, and a third is no affiliation at 4,769. And then there's various parties that we have that make up the total of that. So that's the voter stats. So we're going to have well over 47,000, 48,000 voters and that can participate in this upcoming primary, which is April 23rd. I have mail-in stats as of right now. In the beginning of the year, we mailed out about 11,000 applications for mail-in votes. They have come back in a flood. As of right now, we have processed 2,539 applications. I still have a stack, and I don't have numbers, but it's about that high. So we still have more to go through, and a breakdown of who's requesting mail-in ballots by party. The Republicans have 691. That is of yesterday, and the Democrats have 1,848. So it still leads in the Democrats' favor that they prefer the mail-in ballot, which is it's been a trend. So, and like I said, we still have a lot more to go through, and we are working diligently to get it all processed. I've actually hired a part-time person that does only mail-in applications to get this rolling. So, and it's working fine. We're getting them taken care of. Oh yeah, well, speaking of mail-in ballots and the mail that we've been doing in the first month since January 1st till yesterday, we spent $8,475.36 on mail. That's mail, the mail-out ballots, the applications. That's I send out 5-year notices and any other mail that goes through voter services. That's just in the first month. Mail has gone up. The state has required us to change envelopes for the mail-in ballots. They're going to be a little bigger envelope-wise, so that way they stick out more in the mail. There's no confusion with that. They're colored. So, of course, I've had to purchase all new envelopes, 3 envelopes and new instructions. So that's an estimate about, and I'm still waiting for that approval to come through from the post office. And I'm waiting for envelopes. Then they tell me soon. But I'm looking at about $50,000 just in envelopes to get mail-in ballots out because of the change. And of course, then I'm going to spend I'm gonna spend more money on getting the envelopes out as well. So that's just in a month time, how much money we spent. Now, with that being said, I did get the grant from the economic development. That grant has been
It's
annually.
the State Department of Community and Economic Development
Yes,
out of the Commonwealth.
Yes, sir. So this year, we got about 300,000, which has been funding and putting the elections through. And we're very thankful for the grant and it's been working well. Mail is coming out of the grant, the postage as of right now. But with the way elections are going, cost is only gonna go up. As we've seen, that is also a trend in elections. So we, and just for a figure, every 90 days after an election, I have to file a report. It's an election integrity grant program, post-election report. I just filed, it was due on the 5th of February. And the expenses altogether, I won't go through all the categories, but altogether for the election, general election in 2023 was $141,203.48. So, and that's regular what we spend on elections. So, you know, I just want everybody, the public, to be aware that this doesn't happen magically. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time to make sure elections are done fairly and just, and that it works.
These documents you're referencing are available if anybody wishes to take a look at them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On to polling spots.
And may I stop you for just a
Yes.
second? I need to apologize to you, Mr. Poling. I just realized something. And we're still gonna have the discussion about your questions. We're gonna do that this morning. When we advertised for this public meeting, at that point in time, we knew that we were going to be talking about the proposed resolutions that are under Roman numeral 3 for changes in polling places in the borough of South Newcastle, the city of Newcastle, and Shenango Township. The proposed changes in the second ward of the city, that is actually going to be considered and voted on tomorrow at 8:30. Am I correct?
You are correct.
And the reason we had to do it in 2 days is because of the timing of the legal ad. The law requires that we have to do this 24 hours, at least 24 hours in advance. And at the time we put this first legal ad in, we knew that these were ready to go. The second ward precincts came a day later, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes, that's correct.
which required us to do a second legal ad and do a second public meeting tomorrow morning. But you're here, and when we get down to new business, the first thing we're going to do is address your questions, assuming my colleagues are okay with that. Yes. You're okay, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're welcome to come back tomorrow, but you've made the trip here today, and we're going to address your questions today. But the vote will have to take place tomorrow, and you're welcome to come back tomorrow. But I apologize for any confusion, and I appreciate your patience and your understanding. Thank you. So we'll get to your questions very shortly.
Yes, for sure. We will.
But please go ahead.
So with, there are a number of changes in polling spots.
Are you coming down to new business yet, or are you still under your report?
I'm still under my.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's kind of gonna blend into it. So, with that being said, and with all the changes, we're looking at about 6,500 voters being affected by the changes that are gonna occur with the polling spots. We'll send everybody ID cards, new ID cards. I'll post it in the paper of all the new changes. And we will, by law, we have to go around the area and post signs around in certain areas to notify that the polling spots have changed. We go to great lengths for it. We'll put signs on the door as well on election day at the old polling spots and tell them to go to the new one. So, but with it all said and done, once we have all the changes, we're gonna be 6,500 people will be affected with that.
And those rules that Mr. Germaini is referencing are from the state election laws.
Mhm.
They're not my rules or Dan's rules or Chris's rules or Tim's rules. We have to follow, as I think you all know, the state laws which govern elections. Those are passed by the legislature in Harrisburg, and then the agency that's responsible for the oversight is the Pennsylvania Department of State. So Tim is simply adhering to the laws of Pennsylvania as he discusses all this. I know you know all that, but I just want to make it part of the record, so I'm sorry, Tim.
That's okay. And that kind of blends into the money being spent for postage because we have to send postage out for all this. So like I said, more letters, more things are gonna happen. Postage went up. So we will get that all taken care of and sent out. So with talking about these polling changes, we are looking at a change in South Newcastle Borough. And the reason for that is,
Let me stop you,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
not at all.
Out of respect for Mr. Polding, can we talk now about Second Ward? Even though we're gonna vote on it tomorrow. I don't, are you down to new business or are you still under your executive director's?
It's kind of all blending in, Dan, but I could definitely go
Let's,
and talk about
if
that.
you don't mind.
Not at all.
As long as Chris and Dan are okay with that, you're both willing to stop at this point. And Mr. Polding asked a few questions
Mhm.
regarding the two precincts on the North Hill. Is it 2-4 and 2-5?
That's what, 2, 4, and 2, 5, yes,
Which had been voting at St. John's
Yes.
Lutheran Church.
correct.
And you let us know now what you have done since St. John's has asked us, or has indicated to us that they no longer wish to have their facility utilized as a polling place.
Yes,
What steps did you take, and can you point out in your discussion the fact that the law allows you to either find a location within the precinct or an adjoining precinct? If you could touch on that.
that is correct, and that's what we did. It's been getting harder and harder to find polling spots, so we had to reach outside of the said precinct. So what I came up with initially when I talked to Debbie at the news, that I was gonna put those two polling spots up at Glenmore. They have room. I don't wanna say enough because that would be crowded, but they had the room and they were nice enough to say, yeah, you could put the two other ones here. So there would be 3 polling spots. But the more I thought about the logistics, I think that would have been too hard to have all 3 there. It would be a lot of traffic. They would have 3 different rooms for each polling spot. There's one hallway, and then you would all have to navigate into the polling area to your choice. You asked about if you would take care of all 3. No, every precinct would have their own judge, their own machine. It's just in that area. I decided to look elsewhere for Newcastle 2-5. That's a pretty heavily populated voting area with 1,050 voters. I just thought that would be too much to put there. So I reached out to the Church of God at Euclid Avenue, and they have had their meeting, and they said it would be all right to have a polling spot there. So once we talk about that tomorrow, I would like to get that moved, 2-5 moved over to the Church of God.
And 2-4, you're proposing would go to Glenmore Church.
Yes,
And there would be 2 precincts voting at Glenmore, each with their own board.
yes,
So you've been for 2-3, I assume?
2, 3, right.
yeah,
So your responsibility would continue to be
Mhm.
only 2-3.
yes,
Now, the one thing I would like to mention, Church of God is in the Shannon Township, is that okay?
it butts up to it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I checked it out. Once again, it's getting harder and harder to find polling spots. So my main concern is that it complies with the ADA law, so the Department of Justice doesn't have to step in with that.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Is, Tim, could we have a constable up there, because we've been working without any? Maybe with 2 precincts, we should get one.
If I can get, once again, as constables are harder and harder to find, they're elected. We can't appoint a constable. We put those people on the sheriff's list, what we call it, that way if anything goes on. But if I can get constables up there, I certainly will. But that's another issue in elections. It's getting harder and harder to find constables. It's getting harder and harder to find polling spots. It's getting harder and harder to find people just to work on the boards for election day. So yes, I will definitely examine that and get you something. I agree.
See what happens.
Yes, I do agree though, with two areas there, it's gonna, a lot of people, it's contentious election.
I don't anticipate any problems, but
Hey, you never
you
know,
never know.
you never know. But yes, I will definitely look into that.
We have in other areas of the county similar circumstances. For example, in Scott Township, there are 2 precincts that vote in the same building, which is the Scott Township Volunteer Fire Department. And the folks walk in, and if they're in one precinct, they go to one side of the room. If they're in the other precinct, they go to the other. So what I'm hearing Tim say, that tomorrow what this board will consider is that Newcastle 2-3 would remain at Glenmore and be in one room.
Mhm.
You are proposing tomorrow that we vote for Newcastle 2-4 to also go to Glenmore Church in another room with its own board.
Yes,
And then you're proposing tomorrow that we consider Newcastle 2-5 would go to the First Church of God on Euclid Avenue, which is technically, as you correctly noted, it's in Neshannock Township, but the precincts border one another.
they do.
Okay. Do you have we answered your questions, Mr. Colvin?
The only other thing that people were asking is an increase in pay. And that,
Do you recall when we last did that? Or can you find that out?
I can, and Susie, you know offhand when?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while. I mean, it was under Mr. Allison's.
Oh, it's
Washington.
been since
Oh, yeah.
before you came on board.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that would be something
what,
that,
4 or 5 years ago.
At least.
okay,
Yeah, at least.
that's
So,
something we can take and give some consideration to.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Once again, I apologize to you. You are welcome to come back tomorrow, when we will be voting on this, and you may have other questions. You're still welcome to stay for the whole meeting today, but I wanted to get to your questions sooner rather than later. But let me see if my colleagues have any questions or comments on what we're talking about right now. Mr. Kennedy?
I don't, just thank you for coming.
Oh, no problem.
Mr. Sanada? Again, I hope we've answered your questions. Before we adjourn, if you have other questions, we'll give you that
I'll
opportunity.
think about it.
I know exactly what you're, but you are very welcome to come back again tomorrow at 8:30 if you wish. Anything else on this discussion that we're having in advance of tomorrow's meeting? On the second ward precincts in the city?
No, that's pretty much what I was gonna go over tomorrow, but since.
We'll do that again.
Yeah, we will,
Yeah.
we will, and once again, we mail out all new ID cards, we'll put the notices out, and they'll be in the paper. Leroy, if you have any other questions, you can, even later down the
Oh, I
road,
know.
call me,
You guys are
and
good.
we'll talk about it. But, did that answer everything for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Now, and Leroy, how long have you been a judge for? As long as I can remember. I've been here almost 15 years, so longer than that, huh? You don't even know. Well, we appreciate it. I really do. Thank you.
I remember Leroy about as far back as I can go. I go back, 28 years plus. Leroy's just been an institution. We thank you for your service.
Yes.
Leroy.
Thank you.
Are you still under election director's report?
Yes, sir. If we want to talk about these other changes on the
Please.
polls,
Oh, okay.
is that okay? I mean, I don't have any other figures or anything to go over, no more stats.
So are we going down to the first proposed resolution?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so we're under new business.
Mhm.
And the first voting precinct that we're gonna give some discussion to, and ultimately perhaps a vote, would be a proposed change of the polling place in the borough of South Newcastle.
Mhm.
Up until now, that precinct has voted at the Borough Building on Adela Street. Mr. Germaini is asking that we move the polling place in the borough to the Fire Hall at 104 West Byers Avenue. I'm sure you've all read about the merger that will be taking place between the borough and Shenango Township. However, that does not officially take place, I believe, until the beginning of 2026. So as we sit here today, the borough still is a borough. We still have to have a polling place in that borough. So this is the first resolution. Do you have more to add about this?
Just that the reason for the change is that they've decided to sell the municipal building and they offered to move it to the fire hall. So since that wouldn't be available, that's what we would do.
And the fire department has given you the okay to do
Yes.
that? That's good. Thank you for.
Yes.
Mr. Sanada, questions on this proposal? No. Mr. Kennedy? Chris, what number would this be?
It'll be 01.
Okay, it's resolution number 1, because it's the first one we're considering of 2024. Anything else you need to tell us about this polling place change?
That's about it.
Thank you. So proposed resolution 1 is before us that would move the current polling place in the borough of South Newcastle from the borough building to the fire hall at 104 West Byers Avenue. I have a minor correction on the resolution. I think the zip code up there is 16102.
No,
And so if we can,
I actually checked it. I double checked it. It's 1.
really,
Yeah, I know. I thought it was odd too, but when I looked at it, it said 101. So
I'll take your
I'll
word
double
for it.
check, but I was.
No, that's
yeah.
fine, that's fine. We all know where it
I
is.
thought that was odd too, yeah.
Okay. We could take a motion to approve resolution 1 if one of my colleagues is so willing.
I move we approve resolution 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other comments?
That's pretty self-explanatory, so no.
Thank you, Mr. Sonata.
That's fine.
We'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sanado?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Next on the agenda would be, we'll have to vote on these separately, but, and Tim, I'll let you fill in all the details. We're now going to move to the 4th Ward of the city of Newcastle. Both the 2nd precinct and the 3rd precinct have been voting at St. Joseph's Church on South Cascade Street. That site will no longer be available. Mr. Germaini has reached out to Dawn Services at 831 Harrison Street, and they have given their permission to have us establish a polling place there. But I'll let you fill us in on all the details. We'll talk about both, but again, since we have 2 resolutions, we'll have to vote separately. But please go ahead, Tim.
With the church, there are churches closing throughout the city. St. Joe's the one that's gonna be up for sale. So they said they would be able to accommodate us for the upcoming elections after this. So once again, diligent search throughout the city. I reached out to Dawn Services, both areas, but up to those precincts. I know it's down the road a little ways, but I couldn't find anything anywhere else that would be accommodating for ADA. Dawn Services, of course, is completely compliant. It would be in the gymnasium they have there. It looked like they had plenty of parking, and they were more than happy to help the county out with that. So with that, we're gonna move both those areas into Dawn Services, Old Thaddeus Stevens School.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Sonata, any questions?
That would seem self-explanatory.
Mr. Kennedy? Thank you. So we have the first resolution would apply to the 4th Ward third precinct of the city of Newcastle, noting that the prior polling place was St. Joseph's Church. Given the fact that site is no longer available, Mr. Germaini is asking us to approve this resolution, which would move the precinct to dawn services at 831 Harrison Street. And we will be doing likewise here for the second precinct shortly. So you'll have two precincts under one roof, and as we talked a little while ago, the voters will go in the room or the building one side, I'm assuming one side of the room will be the one precinct.
Yes, we'll have it marked and everything like that, just like we do with the other, like what we did at St. Joe's. So there'll be plenty of room there for that.
This is proposed resolution 2. It's applicable to the third precinct of the 4th Ward. If there are no other questions, I could take a motion for us to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments or questions? Oh,
We'll have to do that.
we have to, is that, not even tomorrow, we'll have to do that another time.
I think so,
Okay.
yes.
I'll fill you in on what we're talking about. Well,
Because it deals with the churches closing. so-
that's right. We're not gonna be taking action on this next one either today or tomorrow. We're gonna have to have yet another public meeting. But down in the 7th Ward of the city of Newcastle, which most people refer to as the Mahoning Town area, the St. Vincent de Paul Church up on Lucy Mont Drive is no longer available. So we will be moving the polling place within the 7th Ward. But we can't do it today, we can't do it tomorrow, we have to have another public meeting.
And the plan is to go to St. Margaret's Club down there. That's adequate there for.
Thank you.
Yes.
Again, we'll have another public meeting to address that. Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
So let's come back to
Uh-huh.
proposed resolution 2. I believe a motion's been made and seconded. This would take the third precinct of the 4th Ward in the city of Newcastle, take it from St. Joseph's Church, move it to dawn services, 831 Harrison Street. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sinata,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Chris. The next proposed resolution, again, we've had a good amount of discussion on this. This is the 4th Ward of the city of Newcastle, the second precinct, which had also been voting at St. Joseph's Church. That facility will no longer be available as a polling site. And Dawn Services at 831 Harrison Street has agreed to host the polling site for this precinct for 2 of the city's proposed resolution 3 that would enable Tim to move forward on that. Is there a motion for this resolution?
I move we accept.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dan. Dan, any questions?
Good.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sinata,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes?
Motion carries.
Thanks, Chris. The next 2 items on the agenda involve the polling place, a change in a polling place for 2 precincts in Shenango Township. The 3rd district and the 2nd district, I believe both of which have been voting at the Shenango Fire Hall at 2424 East Washington Street. That site will no longer be available. Mr. Germaini has spoken with the Shenango Area School District, and it looks as though you've been able to work out an arrangement whereby the sports complex at 2550 Elwood Road in Shenango Township would be the site. Please give us all the details
Sure.
if you could.
The fire hall went through some renovations. They turned it into office space. And right now, it worked before when it was open. Now it's all sectioned off. They had those 2 areas in the back of the fire hall, and it was cramped. So Mr. Burek offered to go to the sports complex. I called the superintendent. They were pretty easy going with that. So that's a big place. It's got handicap parking. You can go in and out. And once again, for both of those spots, they'll be marked just like it was at the fire hall. And you could walk right into the field and go and vote.
I noticed recently I had to go down to Elwood City and I was on Route 65. And it was a school day and I noticed in front of the complex, full lot, lots of cars.
Yes,
And I asked you about that and you think you've got that worked out. Can you
Yes.
explain what will happen on election?
yes, because that was the first thing I noticed when I went and checked it out. They, for election day, will tell everybody in the parking lot, and they got the student parking lot, that they'll have, there's an additional parking in the back. Everybody will have to go park down there, so I'll make sure I go over that again with them, but that's what they told me as far as parking.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes,
Now, like we did with the last two precincts, we're gonna have to split these two as far as resolutions, but address each one separately. So let's start with the third district of Shenango. This would be resolution 4, which again would move the third district from the fire department on East Washington Street over to the Shenango Sports Complex, 2550 Elwood Road. Before I take a motion, Chris, any questions or comments on this proposal? Thank you. Dan, anything?
I'm good.
Thank you. Could I have a motion then for resolution 4?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you both, gentlemen. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sinata,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, Chris. And then, as we've talked, the second district of Shenango Township as well have been co-located at the Shenango Fire Department. We will be moving the polling place for Shenango 2 to the sports complex at 2550 Elwood Road. That's what proposed resolution 5 would do. Dan, any questions or comments about this one? Thank you. Chris, anything? Thank you. May I have a motion for proposed resolution 5?
I move we accept resolution 5.
Second.
Thank you both, gentlemen. If there are no other comments, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sinata,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes?
motion carries.
Thank you. I want to thank the the organizations that have allowed us the use of their facilities in the past, such as Shenango Volunteer Fire Department, the Borough of South Newcastle, St. Joseph's Church, and then as we'll talk about tomorrow, St. John's Lutheran Church up on the north end. We thank them for allowing us the use of their facilities through the years. And then we thank the new people, new places that will allow us the use of their facilities come this April. And as we noted, tomorrow morning, this board is going to reconvene to discuss the proposed changes up on the second ward of the city of Newcastle. That's at 8:30 tomorrow morning, so open to the public. It's been advertised legally. And then in the very near future, the board will reconvene, and there will be the appropriate notice, and we will consider the proposed change in the 7th ward of the city of Newcastle. I'm not quite ready to call for an adjournment because I want to see if Tim has anything else.
I want to just add that Hutchinson Center, when we made the changes for polling last election, I said once Hutchinson Center gets its renovation done, they said we could move back. That has not happened yet. They have not completed their renovation. So just a reminder, those areas are still at the Meadows and the Y zone. And also there was a change in Shenango 6 last election. That was to the Independent Methodist Church, since Good Shepherd decided to sell.
So the first two that you referenced are in the Shannock Township.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, the last one you referenced is Shenango.
Yes. So as you can see, there's a lot of shifting around going with closing of churches, closing of areas, or people not wanting to participate in the elections anymore. That I see this happening more and more.
Now, thank goodness the law does allow us to move to a contiguous precinct if we need to. We saw an example of that today. Or yes, we saw that. Actually, we'll see that tomorrow when we talk.
Yes.
Tim, anything else?
No, that's everything that I had on my list I wanted to talk to you guys about.
Of course, we'll be here again tomorrow
Yes,
morning,
yeah.
so we can always bring them back
Yes,
tomorrow.
we certainly can, but that's about all I have.
Let me open the floor for public comments or questions. Mr. Buck?
How you doing, Commissioner Vogel?
Well, thank you.
I'd like to agree with you. I think we really do have to appreciate the past and the present for letting us do our civic duty in this county. It means a lot. And to address Mr. Polding, as we put our office together for the Democratic Party, I'm the Democratic chairman. Tim's very good. His department's excellent. We appreciate everything they do. But we do post on our Facebook in the office, respect people's property and the signage issues. We make sure. You just don't start walking and put signs up on people's property because first of all, you got to check ordinances in the townships and around the county and respect everything that's there. So I appreciate your department, Tim. It's always top notch.
Thank you.
And I think Mr. Polding, I've worked that polling area up there. You just do an excellent job. In regard to the garbage at the other church, I was up there. There actually was a candidate that left. He brought a desk in, or a little something to sit on, and they told him to take it away, and he left it. That was just rude. But I think we all need to work together and respect each other. So thank you for able to have a couple of comments here.
You're very welcome, Mr. Buck. Thank you. Other comments or questions from the public? Debbie?
Can you explain one more time why you're having a separate meeting tomorrow? Because I didn't quite understand why.
We missed the deadline. When we had put this first legal ad in, I think we had said we were going to consider 5 polling places, not remembering the fact that we still had the North Hill precincts, which necessitated us having to have the second meeting tomorrow. And as we just noted, we're actually going to have a third meeting because we have to do the appropriate legal ad for the 7th ward.
Yeah.
So, in an ideal world, we'd have had it all wrapped up and could have done it all at one time. But we have to adhere to the law as it relates to notification.
Is there a deadline for when polling places have to be changed?
There is, and I don't have it offhand, but I could find it and when I go look in the office. I think if it's, what is it? Is it 10 days prior to election, you need to go and get a court order for that, I believe. Might be so. I have to look, but yes, there is. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Mr. Buck, anything else?
I'm good.
Mr. Polding, anything else?
Well, the signs, I met with the pastor of the church and he said, no, it has to go through the board. So we just pick the signs up and put them in the back or whatever.
That's a good point. Our legal counsel has told us that if the property owner of the polling site, it's up to the property owner. If they allow signs, then you can put signs up within a reasonable length, a reasonable
10 feet from the entrance.
But if the owner of the property on which the polling site is located says no signs, we have to respect the property owner's wishes. And do you keep kind of a list of who allows them and who doesn't?
I do not. What I do is I leave that up to candidates or organizations. I give them fair warning to talk to whoever it is before you put signs up. With that being said, municipal buildings they don't permit it. County, we have a polling spot up here. I've pulled signs many a times up there. We just don't want to be affiliated with either side. We are a political, so it's up to
The property?
yes.
Thank you. Sure. Yes, sir, Mr. Sonata.
Yeah. Tim, is it possible, once we have that list, that we send a list to both Chairman Bach and Chairman Ryan, both parties?
Certainly, I can
Let
make a
them
list.
know. To inform their candidates that these are where signs are and these are where signs aren't, just to try to make it easier for these places. I understand that it becomes very hostile in some of those
It can,
precincts.
yes.
Signs cause a lot of hostility, so
Yeah, I have. And,
everyone needs to cooperate. so critical, especially with trying to find places and everything.
Right,
So we
right.
need to respect the property owner's rights. And maybe if we would give both chairmen a copy of here's where the signs, here's where they're not, and it's their obligation to get it to all their candidates.
Yes,
I
and
think that would be helpful in the future. So
with that, when I get petitions out, I put a piece of paper in the instructions that say, you need to ask before you put signage up. So I do give ample warning with that as well, so, but yeah, I'll get a list for sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else, Mr. Sonata? No. Any other questions or concerns? No. Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
I just gotta say the same thing you said. Being here a little over a month now, and seeing what Tim and his staff does, they're just, we're blessed to have him. We really are. He's a great leader. He's got great people working for him. They're in there every day working hard, so we have a fair election, so. We're just, Ed Allison was a great guy, but Tim slid right into them shoes and has done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
We thank you and your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I appreciate that. Just a reminder, we will be adjourning and reconvening this board tomorrow morning at 8:30 to consider the proposed changes in the second ward of the city of Newcastle. You're all very welcome to come back for that meeting as well. And then in the near future, and we'll do the appropriate legal ad, but the board will meet one more time to consider the proposed change in the seventh ward of the city of Newcastle. Any other matters of business, with the understanding we'll be back here in 23 hours, but any other matters of business that you folks on the board need to bring up? Hearing none. Thank you all for being here, and please, you're welcome to come back tomorrow. May I please have an adjournment motion?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Mr. Ordinaro is going to turn the. Thank you all.
All right.
Debbie, do you